email from Wall Street, from Citigroup to the Barack Obama campaign with a list of people they wanted in his cabinet. Every person on that list ended up in his cabinet. And the reason I know that, because that got released by WikiLeaks, and that's why they've been trying to kill Julian Assange ever since. And that's why they wanted to have Kamala Harris. That was their first choice. The donor class was Kamala Harris. They thought we'd have a female Barack Obama, and that's a good face for imperialism, right? Because we have a black woman bombing and stealing resources and doing neoliberal and neocon policies. That's perfect. And then she couldn't get a vote. So then they had to go to their second most reliable person, which was Joe Biden.
Tucker Carlson is left completely stunned after Jimmy Dore blows the lid off Obama's dirty secrets. Let's get into it.
The way I said it was Barack Obama made sure the bankers got their bonuses while he kicked 5.1 million families out of their homes. Not people, 1 million families. And then you find out that he got more money from Wall Street than John McCain did. And you find out that...
Did he really?
Yes. And that there was an email from Wall Street, from Citigroup to the Barack Obama campaign with a list of people they wanted in his cabinet. Every person on that list ended up in his cabinet. And the reason I know that, because that got released by WikiLeaks, and that's why they've been trying to kill Julian Assange ever since. And so they all are working. He wasn't a departure from George W. Bush, Barack Obama, just his skin color. He took us from 2 wars to 7. He gave us a right-wing healthcare plan, which came out of the Heritage Foundation, which is the same people I gave you Project 2025. And, he gave us Mitt Romney's healthcare plan. So, and he deported all those. He dropped more bombs than George Bush, and nobody noticed. And that's why they wanted to have Kamala Harris. That was their first choice. The donor class was Kamala Harris. They thought we'd have a female Barack Obama, and that's a good face for imperialism, right? Because we have a black woman bombing and stealing resources and doing neoliberal and neocon policies. That's perfect. And then she couldn't get a vote. So then they had to go to their second most reliable person, which was Joe Biden. That's exactly how it worked. I don't know if you remember, but they coronated her on Martha's Vineyard. She's going to be our candidate. And they thought they had the black Barack Obama, but she couldn't get a vote. She has no political talent, right? And so then they forced her on Joe Biden as the vice president. And then, of course, they did a coup, just like Jim Gaffigan said at the Al Smith dinner.
Jim Gaffigan showed absolutely no mercy to Kamala Harris or the Democrats at the 2024 Al Smith dinner. I did a little digging, and I found the exact clip where Gaffigan makes the coup comments that Dore mentioned. And one thing to keep in mind is that Gaffigan has basically been a lifelong Democrat, and he's also suffered from TDS for years.
You have to admit, the Democrats have done an amazing job rebranding Vice President Harris, right? The term joyful warrior was used so many times at the Democratic convention. I felt like I was at a yoga retreat. Vice President Harris's trajectory has been astounding. In just the course of a couple months, she went from mediocre vice president to everyone's mamala. This has been an interesting presidential campaign. The Democrats have been telling us Trump's reelection is a threat to democracy. In fact, they were so concerned of this threat, they staged a coup, ousted their democratically elected incumbent, and installed Kamala Harris. In other words, all her dreams have come true. Sometimes prayers take 3.5 years and a George Clooney op-ed.
They had the debates way earlier than they normally would, so they would give them enough time to install Kamala Harris, and that's exactly what happened. So I don't know how I got off on this tangent, but yes, that's the.
So according to Jimmy Dore, Kamala was their first choice before they even considered Joe Biden. They wanted their Obama 2.0, and it's only because she couldn't get a vote that they had to go with their only other option. And that's why she was chosen as vice president, because the main goal was to make her POTUS. But even with an installment, she still couldn't get a vote. You all remember how hard the Obamas went on the campaign trail. They were basically calling people sexist and racist for not giving her their support.
I hope you'll forgive me if I'm a little frustrated that some of us are choosing to ignore Donald Trump's gross incompetence while asking Kamala to dazzle us at every turn. I hope that you'll forgive me if I'm a little angry that we are indifferent to his erratic behavior, his obvious mental decline, his history as a convicted felon, a known slumlord, a predator found liable for sexual abuse. All of this while we pick apart Kamala's answers from interviews that he doesn't even have the courage to do, y'all, please do not hand our fates over to the likes of Trump, who knows nothing about us, who has shown deep contempt for us. Because a vote for him is a vote against us, against our health, against our worth.
We have not yet seen the same kinds of energy and turnout in all quarters of our neighborhoods and communities as we saw when I was running. Now, I also want to say that that seems to be more pronounced with the brothers. So if you don't mind, just for a second, I'm going to speak to y'all directly and say that when you have a choice that is this clear, when on the one hand you have somebody who grew up like you, knows you, went to college with you, understands the struggles and pain and joy that comes from those experiences. He's had to work harder and do more and overcome.
It all makes sense now. They use identity politics to try to manipulate people into feeling guilty for choosing policy over person. According to Michelle Obama, being a woman is the only thing that should matter. And according to Barack Obama, Kamala being black should automatically get her all the black votes. Now, Jimmy touches on identity politics a little more.
We know that after Occupy Wall Street and the Tea Party, then the major newspapers, the mentions of racism and white supremacy, people have studied this. I'm not making this up. I'm just quoting studies, and went through the roof. And why is that? That's because, as Chomsky taught us, the newspapers aren't there to inform you. They're to manufacture consent. And one of the great ways to manufacture consent for the establishment is to divide and conquer. It's been there ever since World War II. It's been divide and conquer. And that's exactly what they did. So they got everybody that's what identity politics is. And it's got everybody who you identify with your skin color.
Yes, the Obamas know all about identity politics. It has literally become their brand. And they've made tens of millions of dollars pushing it, where they go around and get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to speak at events and share these so-called lived experiences. And I think nothing exposes that more than Michelle Obama's victim routine.
You said we were all too aware that as a first black couple, we couldn't afford any missteps.
Yeah.
And you also say, as a black woman, I was under a particularly white hot glare. Did you feel that?
For sure. You can't afford to get anything wrong because you didn't get at least until the country came to know us, we didn't get the grace that I think some other families have gotten.
I want to be as excited as every parent. I don't want to have to worry about her entering a world where she has to worry about how people would treat her because of the color of her skin.
We know folks are going to do everything they can to distort her truth. My husband and I sadly know a little something about this. For years, Donald Trump did everything in his power to try to make people fear us. See, his limited, narrow view of the world made him feel threatened by the existence of two hard-working, highly educated, successful people who happen to be black. I want to know, who's going to tell him that the job he's currently seeking might just be one of those black jobs?
They had 8 years to solve the issue of racism that they claim defines our country. But they didn't solve anything. Instead, they profited from the political opportunity with book deals and speeches. It's like the more division they can create, the better off they are and the more wealthier they become. It's all calculated and designed to keep America emotionally and racially divided so they could stay relevant.
It's the opposite of Martin Luther King. It's the opposite of judge someone by the content of their character.
Exactly.
And so now everybody's identified with their gender or their sexual preference or their skin color or their ethnicity, and they got us all siloed off and split up.
You know, it was Obama's presidency that really marked the rise of identity politics. It was like from that point on, everything started being filtered through race, gender, and identity. Instead of pulling the country together, they spent years gaslighting the American people. They preach so much about unity and push division.
I mean, they've devoted enormous energy in trying to entrench themselves in power and punishing their enemies and enriching their friends and silencing their critics. They put on a big show of deporting people and targeting transgender folks. They never miss a chance to scapegoat minorities and DEI for every problem under the sun. You got a flat tire? DEI. Huh. Wife mad at you? DEI. What they have not devoted energy to is helping you. They have not put forward serious proposals to lower housing costs or make groceries more affordable. They haven't improved our schools. They haven't made health care more accessible. They haven't shortened your commute or prepared young people for the future where AI might take their job.
It always amazes me how much we learn about politicians only after they leave office. And it's all because the media refuses to tell the truth. They love protecting their favorites and hiding inconvenient facts, while they turn the blind eye on corruption. So according to Jimmy Dore, Obama chose to protect Wall Street over the American people. He made sure the bankers kept their bonuses while millions of American families were kicked out of their homes. And if it weren't for Julian Assange and WikiLeaks exposing that email from Citigroup executive Michael Froman, none of this would have seen the light of day. Froman was more than just a donor. He was the one who introduced Obama to Wall Street. He also helped Obama run his transition team and then conveniently took a job inside the administration. The story that the public was sold was that Obama was the hero for the working class, while he was bailing out the same banks he claimed he was going to be holding accountable. And instead of bringing people together, everything was suddenly filtered through gender identity and race. The country was quietly being pushed deeper and deeper into identity politics, and there's no denying that Obama's presidency marked the beginning of that era. But now, I think people are just tired of it. They're tired of the shaming and tired of the guilt trips. And the Obamas, well, they still make sure to pop up every now and then to remind everyone that America is still racist, because their brand is identity politics, and they've been profiting from it for years, pretending to be the victims. They've made millions of dollars of these so-called lived experience narratives. And if that wasn't bad enough, the fact that Jimmy exposed the truth about Kamala being their chosen one, their Obama 2.0, they tried everything under the sun to get her elected, from identity politics to straight up guilt-tripping people into supporting her. Too bad for them, America shut that pipe dream down, not once, but twice. And I feel like it all adds up. Obama's presidency basically set the stage for the last 16 years of division and identity manipulation and media gaslighting. The story the public was sold, the one the media pushed, never quite matched reality. At the end of the day, the media helped create this mess. They were complicit from the start, and the people who benefited the most were the political elites who built their careers on telling Americans how divided the country is. Meanwhile, Trump, on the other hand, whether you like him or not, he's very transparent. I would say he's probably one of the most transparent presidents we've ever had. Just think about it. He says exactly how he feels and doesn't care about hurting feelings. And not only that, he does what he says he's going to do. He makes promises and he keeps them. There's no sugarcoating and no political correctness.